Hey all, welcome back to the Let's Talk About Things podcast. We are in season 2, episode 5, we think. We're losing track, but that's a good thing because time flies when you're having fun. So we're in the month of April, and we just had something really exciting happen in our family. Lacey and I got another niece. She was just born April 5th, and we were so stinking excited for her arrival. Our brother and his wife did not know the gender until the birth, so we were chomping at the bit to find out, and it's another little girl, and we're excited.
Girl gang, welcome.
Yes, we don't have any grandsons in the family yet, so all girls.
Yeah, that's exciting.
Anyway, what else has happened this month so far, April? Like anything exciting? How's work been? Where was your last trip? Lacey travels so much, I cannot keep track of wherever she goes.
We just had a conference this past week. It was probably our biggest conference, but it was good. It was busy.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool.
Now just in officially prep season, and cardio is cranked up. So I'm looking forward to that. The bulk was fun, but eating too much food for me just kind of wears me out a bit. And so I'm actually looking forward to this prep. I think it's going to be great.
Yeah, if you're new here, Lacey's in a bodybuilding competition in July. So she's been technically in prep for several months now, but now she's officially cutting, which means starting to size down and cut those muscles and cut the fat and all the cool leaning out things. And speaking of bodybuilding, your coach just had a competition.
Yep, so. He competed yesterday as well. He did very well. I think he's going to do another one because he's just had a lot of medical complications with surgeries and tearing things. So he kind of got into this one quicker, still did amazing. I mean, impressive, but I think this next time around, he's going to extend it and do a little bit longer. But I think, he's very talented.
Awesome. Shout out to you, Ben, from what I've seen on your social media.
Yeah, go Ben.
You did the damn thing. So
yeah, he killed it.
Yeah, he did awesome.
I call him King.
There you go.
He's a king.
He is.
His mindset, just his drive, like him and I have talked about how similar we are with, we're both goal oriented, but it's like we hold our own selves accountable. So it's really nice to have a coach that knows if something doesn't go right this one week, or I'm not feeling it, I feel really heavy, or I just feel like something's off with my weight. He understands what that's like. So if anybody's looking into bodybuilding, having the right coach makes the world of difference, because when Holly and I competed, our old coach just kind of didn't quite understand the certain things that we were needing. And it's night and day difference with a coach that actually cares about females' differences with bodybuilding versus a man's differences. Coaches
are never a one size fits all. One coach might work for somebody and not work for the next person. You have to have the right. It's almost as important as finding like a partner, like a boyfriend, girlfriend, like, because this is someone you have to hang with for months and months and months. So you got to find the right person. And speaking of finding the right people in your life, we are kind of talking today about who you surround yourself with and why that's important. Because I don't even remember how Lacey and I got onto this topic, but I think we were kind of talking about betrayal. And
we were talking about, it was when I was in my hotel room, and we were trying to come up with ideas. Like when we come up with ideas, y'all, we come up with, what do we think the public has been talking about on social media? What is something that's kind of controversial? Just trying to keep up with, what do people want to talk about, or what should we flesh out? And you and I were talking in our hotel room. I was reading John at the time, and I was like, it's just interesting to me how we were talking about Judas, and we were talking about how Judas betrayed Jesus. And I said, it's interesting because Jesus knew he was going to do that. I mean, he even said it, I think in like John, what was it, like 13:18 or 16:18, something like that. He said something like, the one who eats my bread kicks his heels up at me, something like that. Don't quote me on this my little our little
We're
TikTok
not
correctors.
biblical scholars. We've got a lot of you out there who keep us in check, which we appreciate. But
we were talking about it, and I was like, he knew that he was going to do that. He already knew. He still surrounded himself, though, with him. He chose his 12 disciples extremely seriously, and he took it seriously, and each one had a specific purpose. And so I was like, man, why Judas though? He knew he was going to betray him. But a lot of people, there's a lot of speculation, and some people say that, well, Judas was still put there by design to fulfill the prophecy. He still had to betray Jesus so that Jesus could go to the cross for us. And people say, well, Judas had free will. Yes, he did. But then again, that also shows us as believers what happens when you fall into temptation, when you fall into the dark side of things, and what happens. So I think no matter what, even if it was Judas that got the short end of the stick, he still had to show us what happens either way, with free will and with fulfilling God's purpose and a prophecy. And then we got to talking about how it's so important who you surround yourself with, and how many friends we've lost, or how many people have drifted away from us just due to our beliefs. And it's been a very good blessing for each of us, because we got to see true colors. We got to see people that weren't quite walking the faithful, surrendering kind of path with Jesus, and that's okay. But like I said, then we got onto the topic of, oh my gosh, we should probably talk a little bit more about why surrounding yourself with the right people is important.
Yeah. I mean, and sometimes you just outgrow people. Sometimes nothing bad happens.
Yeah, you just drift away.
And that's a normal part of life, and that's totally fine. And, Lacey and I talk all the time about, like, why did someone do this, or why did someone do that? And Judas is like the ultimate, why in the world? Like, if you have spent the last 3+ years hanging around with the Son of God, watching him perform miracles, what in you says, you know what? I'm going to sell him to the highest bidder. I'm going to betray him for money. Like, what has to happen in your mind or in your heart? I wonder all the time about that.
What was that one verse? It might have been in John or Matthew. Because
I got my Bible here if we need to.
Yeah, but I've read all of them, or not, like, I've read them at such a faster pace that they kind of lump together, and their stories are similar. They overlap, but like Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, all of those. In John and in Matthew and in Mark, they talk about Judas, and I was sitting there, I was reading it, and it said something like, Judas did that because, to some degree, I think someone had also put this beautifully, like, he almost was upset at Jesus. He didn't like that Jesus was going to basically turn himself in, and he didn't like that he was going to leave, basically. He didn't like that. He thought that Jesus should have stayed and helped the people, something like that. I mean, again, don't quote me on it, but I think somebody was saying, like, Judas was upset at Jesus because he didn't like that he was going away, and he wanted him to stay. And so I think he thought turning him in would keep him. But then again, I don't know.
I always wondered, because Jesus, this sounds bad to say, but it's not really bad. Jesus kind of had his favorites. He had, of the 12, he had his 3 that got to go with him certain places that nobody else did, and they got to see things nobody else did. And so sometimes I wonder if Judas was motivated by pure jealousy.
Possibly.
Maybe he just felt left out, felt unwanted.
Which, I mean, we don't know, because I probably haven't read too deep into it. Again, that's part of learning and understanding and growing in your faith. But it was just always curious to me. I was curious to see that, because we've had friends in our lives. I mean, we've all had friends in our lives where we may know that this person isn't somebody you necessarily tell your deepest, darkest secrets to, and you kind of keep them at an arm's length. But you're also like, man, they're still important to me. They've been in my life for so long. What am I supposed to do? Do I cut them loose? Do I talk to them? But then it's like, this person would 100% stab you in the back if they had the opportunity. So it's tough, because I think on my end of things, especially being a female, there's just tendencies for females to do that.
Women are awful. Oh my God.
And for me, it's my, like, literally my 3 girls, and I mean, the girls that I know would just go to war for me and with me. I'm good with that. But it took me a lot of time, and it took me losing other friends to find the girls that I just know are like-minded. They run towards Christ, and they'd have my back if I was not in the room, kind of thing. But Jesus had to have Judas do that for reasons we may never know until we get there. But
I read something.
It was part of the prophecy.
I read something interesting. I was trying to compare the different books of the Bible that all tell the same story about him. And one thing I noticed is, and I read this somewhere else too, that Judas only ever called Jesus rabbi, which is teacher. Everybody else called him Lord. They recognized him as the Son of God, as Jesus the Christ. Judas was the only one to just continually call him teacher. So I wonder if in Judas's mind he had doubts about who Jesus really was, and he just didn't think he was the Son of God. I don't know. I really don't know. But I think the people we surround ourselves with, it's important how they view us and what they think of us, because it affects how they treat us. I mean,
and it teaches you where to guard your heart, because obviously biblically, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. But I think a lot of us have to first fail to succeed. As much as it is in life, we all have to. But even with some of the girls I can think of that I've had to allow God to remove from my life, I didn't cut anybody loose, but it was more of a God allowed them to drift away when they were intending to drift away, because they no longer served their purpose. They no longer were needed in that season of my life. And there's no bad blood, and you know, they're off doing their own thing, but to some degree, sometimes people drift off and you lose touch. It's not fun, and it's kind of sad, but at the end of the day, they're not going where God needs you to go. And I used to try to hold on to every single one of my friends. I tried to be there for multiple people in my life, and it was draining to try to be there for everybody, yet nobody was there for me. So I had to learn through failure and through not listening to God that some of these people you don't want with you. These are not the people that you want to go to war with. And the 3 to 4 girls that I do have outside of family, it took my whole life to find them. It took a lot of hard work. They were there in my dark moments. They were there in the best moments. But in the darkest moments, they were never scared. They never went away. They never said, hurry up and heal or do this or do that. They were just like, whatever you need, we are here. Or, hey, you're better than this. You can do this. Fight through it. So it's really cool to see that. But when I thought about Jesus and his 12 disciples and how he picked them, and he loved John, you know, and just Judas, I was like, man, I wonder if Judas, I don't think he was forced to betray, because I know he had to fulfill the prophecy, even though he probably didn't know he was going to. But even when we hear it in the Old Testament and Psalm, same thing, there's still a prophecy that God had planned. And whether or not that was Judas, or it could have been Matthew, it could have been Mark, it could have been whomever. But I think Judas was a lesson to teach us believers that when you fall into temptation, you fall into that trap of wanting money or falling into your jealousy, falling into your pride, it will be your downfall. And clearly Judas took his own life. So, I mean.
And if you're comfortable sharing, just so we can, you know, give some examples, like, have you ever been betrayed? Like, can you think of an instance and what happened? And now if it's personal, we don't have to go there. I'll put myself on the chopping block, but can you think of a time?
Oh yeah. I mean, there's a lot of times when, have you ever, and I'm sure our viewers and listeners have all been there, where somebody you really did not expect. It's always the ones you don't expect. And it was somebody that, and the famous saying, keep your enemies close, whatever. I truly thought this one person valued me, had my back. I mean, we were constantly around each other, but I realized, I mean, hindsight is 20/20, but in the moment, this particular person, I was blindsided because my head couldn't wrap around that person physically did something that she did. It just didn't click, because she allowed me to see a version of her that I trusted. She allowed me to see a version of her that kept her safe in my little bubble. But little did I know from multiple people, she had been doing X, Y, Z, and I didn't know that. So when it came to light, and it actually was a huge reason for a lot of what made me break a bit, was I stopped trusting a lot of people after her. I put up so many barriers because she was the last person I ever expected to do that and to hurt me. And
Judas was close to Jesus. It's always someone close to you.
Yeah. And she had done it with somebody that I thought I was going to marry. So that's what was very hard about it too, was because she was there even for the moments where I was with that person. She was at every event, every moment. And then when
it was creepy when you look back.
Yeah. Well, when I found out what had happened through a mutual friend who said, hey, look, I probably shouldn't be telling you this, but if I was in your shoes, I would want someone to tell me. And her exact words were, this isn't fair to hide from you. She was like, I can't do this to you. So she told me what had happened. We got filled in on the conversation. And I remember where I was too. I remember I was at work. I was a sales rep. So I was in my car. We go from doctor's office to doctor's office. And I was sitting in between the doctor's office and I had no emotion. I had no emotion because, especially after what had happened to me in my past with losing somebody I never thought I would, then having your close friend you find out more information. It's just one after the other. You get so numb to the feeling, and it's almost like, that doesn't surprise me, because then looking back now, 2020, I look at those events and I remember what happened and where we were and the people we were around. And I went, she didn't want him. She wanted to be me. And it was kind of creepy-ish, because now everything that I ignored or I was blindsided by made sense. And I went, oh, I get that now. So now with 4 years under my belt of understanding and heartbreak and just complete darkness, I look at any of my newer friendships and I go to Bible study. I look at those women, and there are times when certain things happen, and I know people can relate to this. A trigger will set you off. Something that somebody did in your past to hurt you, or a wound that you have yet to heal. If somebody else does that to you, sometimes it triggers you, and you're sitting there going, okay, why is this really upsetting me right now? Those of you that are more in tune with your emotions, you can ask yourself, is it this person that hurt me, or is it what they said and it triggered something from my past? And as I got to be 28 and learning, and I'm still learning, there were women that came into my life that God allowed, and he was testing me. I could feel it. It was such a weird, almost like a polar magnet, where if I met somebody and it was a girl, that discernment in my body would either shut me down. I mean, I wouldn't talk. If I knew that this person's soul was not right with mine because I had prayed for it, my whole body would shut down. And again, I thought to myself, is this a trigger? Is this something I need to work on? But then it never failed. A few weeks down the road, a few months down the road, I would find out something that I would say, just thank God I did not tell that person my darkest secrets, because I'm an open book. I will tell anybody anything. I have nothing to hide. But some women, some men especially, if they came into my life, I had this like radar that would analyze, and I'd take it in. I'd be kind. I would be respectful. And then instantly, if I knew that they didn't have good intentions being around me, my body would shut down. It would not. And I can't explain it. Most people would probably say that's crazy, but it truly is a feeling where when you have the Holy Spirit convicted within you, it's a protection. It is like a force field. And I remember there was this one young lady whom she had come up to my friend. She knew my friend at the time, and this was back in DFW. And she said, oh, you're going to love her. You know, absolutely. She's the greatest. And I said, excellent. I can't wait to meet her. I love to meet new folks and just talk to new people. Well, this girl, I got to meet her, and instantly something in my head was like, shut your mouth. Like, don't say a word. And I was like, that's kind of weird. Like, Lacey, chill out. Like, relax, you're fine, you know? But something just kept telling me, don't say anything. Just be kind. Be nice. Just because you feel this, people that are listening that go through the same thing, discernment, doesn't mean you have to be rude. And so I was still respectful. I was very kind. But all this woman did was ask me about my past relationships, any guys I'm currently interested in. Can I see pictures of them? It was very much like, She had to figure out and find out every little thing about my life.
Someone you just met?
Oh yeah.
That's creepy.
And all I heard in my head was guard your heart, guard your heart, guard your heart. And soon I found out that she ended up doing some pretty unfair things to my friend because my friend opened up too much. So my friend got that taste. So it's one of those things where some people look at it as, oh, well, you're just hindering yourself, or I look at it as it is 100% a protection.
So how do you know the difference between when God's trying to tell you something and protect you from someone that's doesn't have your best interest, or it's just a trauma response? Like,
there are times I mix it up. There are times, I'll be honest, there are times I don't know, because let me rephrase. There are more times when I know it is a conviction from Christ. And then there are times when I'm like, okay, that is your past trauma. That is your past that they did not deserve. And more often than not, it's in a situation where I am overstimulated. So if I am, my discernment, where I know it is the Holy Spirit and it is God protecting me, my entire body is calm. I am at peace. I have no worries about what is around me. And I can immediately just listen, and I just nod and I smile and I thank God and I pray that He gave me this gift. But then when I'm overstimulated and I'm scared and anxious, that's when I know it's a trigger, because my body is responding to my environment rather than that specific person. It's definitely not. And some people will say, well, what if you're in a bar, or what if you're in an event where there's a ton of people and you're overstimulated, but somebody else is also hitting off your discernment? Even if I'm in an environment where there's a ton of people and I might get overstimulated, there is still a sense of calmness when I meet somebody who God does not want me to allow into my private life and in my inner circle, and it's a peace. There's no hatred towards them. There's no jealousy. There's no animosity. It is just be quiet.
I think that's a good way to kind of tell.
It's a be quiet, be kind, but you don't need this person to be on your 5-finger roster. But when I'm overstimulated and I'm anxious and I'm like, my chest is tight, because I'll admit this, y'all, I get overstimulated very easily. There's a lot going on and I can't focus on one conversation, or there's just people overwhelming me. I will know when I'm just triggered because I can't calm down in the moment. I can't calm down. I need to go walk outside. I need to go to the bathroom. I need to go grab a water. I just need to remove myself from the equation. But when it's a discernment, God keeps me there so that I'm aware, and He's teaching me in that moment. It is like a calm lesson He's teaching me, but He doesn't remove me. And He knows that in that moment that He needs me to be taught, He's saying, be still, my child. Be still. That's all I hear. But when I'm overstimulated, I'm like, I need out of here.
It's a good distinction to make, because someone's probably sitting there thinking, well, how do I know when it's God or when it's just my own anxiety?
If it's God, it'll bring you peace.
And, the Bible says that He does not give us a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and sound mind. So if it's coming from a place of fear, maybe check yourself a little bit. And to be a good Christian doesn't mean you have to tell everybody everything. You're not required to do that. You're allowed to have some privacy and not tell everybody all your secrets.
Well, and some people say, well, I'm an overthinker. I'm anxious. How do I overshare because I want people to know I can relate to them and I understand what they're going through. You're an empath, honey. I get it. Empaths, we have it hard because we want this person that's telling us their life story to know how much we care about them and how we really wish that didn't happen to them. So in order for us to relate, we tend to relate something back to what happened to us. And people might think of that as selfish, but it's like, no, it's like, I'm genuinely trying to let you know that I feel your pain and I want you to know I'm here for you. And it's really hard to kind of work that balance. But if it's somebody that I know would not do me right if I was not in the room, I don't talk. I just don't. And it's not to say that person is a bad person. That's not to say that at all. But that person is not meant to be in your circle. It's not meant to be in God's plan for you. And maybe it's, some people can have their opinions about it. But I have learned in my 28 years, I have learned who to trust, who to not. But it only came when I finally stopped pulling away from my discernment. I used to ignore it. I used to bury it. I used to say that that's just me acting crazy. But when I finally tuned into it and listened to it, it was clear as day that it was the Holy Spirit. And I have never been disrespectful to any new stranger I've met. If they have come at me in a disrespectful way, I will remove myself from the equation just because it's not worth fighting about. But some people say, oh, well, I'm just an anxious person. I'm always overstimulated. I'm always this. I promise you, when you have the gift of discernment and you're around somebody that you know the Holy Spirit doesn't want you around, you will be calm.
And even if you're not sure, and you're not sure if you really are hearing in a discernment type of way, just basics, look at people's actions. Like if you have a group of friends that you hang around, if one of those friends talks to you badly about another friend, is that really someone you want to hang around? Because they're probably talking smack about you when you're not around.
And there's a difference. Because with females, you could have a big female group, right? You've got women that have like 12 friends. I don't know how they do it. But you could have friends that vent about something that's bothering them. Like, hey, Gina did this one day and it kind of rubbed me the wrong way and I don't know what to do about it. Do you have any advice? That's venting. But if you're sitting there going, man, Gina's a bee, she's fat, she's done this, she went and slept with so-and-so. Now that is straight gossip. And like you said, those kind of women that openly gossip and tear down somebody that they call their friend, can you imagine what they're saying about you behind your back? Even when I'm in the middle of two friends that they've had an argument, and they're trying to come to me as the middleman, ask any of my friends, I will say, I am out of this equation. I love both of you. You both had a disagreement. Do you really think it's worth your friendship? And they both say no. And I say, okay, then you two need to sit down, come to Jesus meeting, leave me out of it. But you both know what happened. You both know what was in the wrong. Discuss it like adults, leave me out of it. And I don't want any part of any argument, of any complication, because I've had it in my life. I've had enough of it. And if people are like, oh, well, not taking a side is taking a side. No, not taking a side is, this is y'all's drama, leave me out of it. Like, I don't want any part of the drama that you both created. Now, if they are genuinely coming to me and saying, hey, we have an issue, we need your advice, we need help on this, then I'm going to talk to both of them directly. I'm not going to go to one or the other. I'm going to say, hey, both of you, let's talk about this. But I'll be honest, that hasn't happened since like freshman or sophomore year of college. I haven't had women in my life like that. The women I have now are godly women. If something happens, they're like, hey, did you pray about it? Did you talk to God first? What did he do? They're not like, oh God, well girl, I think she's a bee. We don't talk like that. That's not how we talk. So the women I've surrounded myself with now, I haven't had that issue. But for women that do, if you're in a group, and men, if you're in a group that you probably are the smartest right now in the room, you probably need to find a new group. Or if you're in a group where you're looking around at your friends and all they're doing is talking smack about people, you cannot worship God and hate his people. And as soon as you figure that out, the sooner you realize you're not needed there anymore.
Yeah, and as Christians, we're not asking you to never talk to anybody about anything or never confide in anybody, because I think we're meant for community. And, if I'm ever having an issue with a person, there are maybe a total of 3 people that I can safely talk to about it and get some direction. And these are people that I know beyond a shadow of a doubt, like I would put my life on it. They're not going to spread what I've said to them. They're not going to misconstrue my intentions with what I'm saying. They're not going to think badly of me. And that's probably...
They're like your councilman.
You're one of them. Like, if I'm ever having an issue with somebody, I will call Lacey and say, okay, I'm feeling a certain way about this person because they did X, Y, and Z. Talk me off the ledge. That's what I tell her, because when I say I want you to talk me off the ledge, it's because I'm about to tell this person what I truly think, and I don't want to do that all the time. So Lacey's good at playing devil's advocate and saying, well, have you thought about it this way, or did you look at it in this way? She's not there.
I don't always side. I'm always like, because Holly and I, if anybody ever wanted to dig up the darkest dirt on me, it'd probably be this woman. And even if you were to torture her, she's not going to, So same thing, but I always have to play, because she does this with me. We both are fair. We understand how each other gets.
Annoyingly so sometimes.
And so when we're both upset about something, or somebody or something has irritated us, both of us are good about saying, hey, this was the situation. We don't change the narrative. We don't change what happened. We're very truthful about what each other has done. And then we say, how would you go about this? What do I need to do? Or how do I talk to this person? And most of the time it's, okay, how would the other person feel, or what do you think the other person is thinking about right now? And we try to switch it so that way if the situation came up again, or she needs to talk to this person, or I need to talk to this person, we haven't just thought about it as, please convince me I'm in the right. Because we're not always.
You'll always be the first person to be like, Holly, you're in the wrong. Like if I am, she'll be the first person to tell me, do I enjoy hearing it? No, absolutely not. Like, and this especially, you know, if I ever have a disagreement with my husband and I cannot figure it out by myself, and my husband knows this, he gives me full permission to talk to Lacey about things. This is up to you and your spouse if you're married. Like, but Zach knows Lacey's the first person that'll check my attitude in a heartbeat. So it's honestly beneficial for him if I talk to her about some things. Like, and if I'm struggling and my husband has done something and I'm irritated, I'll talk to her about it, and she's like, I think in this case it's you that needs to whatever. You need to have people that you trust with your life to have these hard conversations, because no relationship is perfect, and you're going to need wise counsel in anything you do. So the people, and Lacey and I have said it, we're not talking about people that just tell you what you want to hear to make you feel better. That's gossip, that's venting, you know, that's a different thing. We're talking about when you truly want to resolve an issue, or you're trying to figure out where you went wrong, or, you know, what you're supposed to do. You need those people in your life that will not hesitate to check your attitude, that will not hesitate to be like, you need to think differently.
Well, and you gotta be on the flip side. If you are that kind of person that you want somebody to be a real friend and you want them to check you when you have been in the wrong, please keep in mind, and I say this because I've been there, you have to be emotionally strong to accept a friend like that. Mm-hmm. Because if you're wanting that, you have to become that. So if you're sitting here going, man, I wish I had a friend that had my back, told me I was in the wrong, loved me and supported me, are you that friend?
Yeah.
Can you do that too?
Can you accept that criticism?
Yeah, because there are times, you know, somebody has told me something, a friend of mine, that I didn't want to hear, and I thought, well, God, she's rude, I'm never talking to her again. But then I realized she cared about me enough to tell me, hey, look, I love you, but you actually did mess this up and you need to fix it. And still to this day, that person will be in my wedding. She is still one of my best friends.
Lacey and I say all the time, the Bible says iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens another. Like, if you want true Christian friendships, you need people that sharpen you. Like, you need people that will correct you when you're in the wrong. You need people that'll tell you straight like it is. You need people that'll guide you towards Christ. Like, for example, just recently, someone did something that ticked me off, and I called Lacey. I was like, this is what they said, and I know darn good and well what they meant by it. What should I say? And I was expecting Lacey to be like, you need to tell them blah, blah, blah. Lacey said, ignore it. And I went, say what? Like, that is not what my flesh wanted to do. Man, I wanted to give them a piece of my mind. I wanted to be like, because I knew I was in the right.
And you were. At the end of the day, you don't want to argue with somebody who cannot emotionally comprehend. You are literally wasting your time.
Yeah.
You are wasting your time.
And I knew that. And like, I had to sit there and, y'all, if you're struggling, like, you can ask the Holy Spirit to help you. Like, and if you don't know any great fancy words to say, like, you can just say, Holy Spirit, help me. Help me shut my mouth. Like, put your hand over my mouth. I have to ask God for that all the time. And I did.
You in the moment, though, because I've struggled with this in the beginning, when somebody would say something that wasn't true about me. Mm-hmm. And you want to prove that that's not, obviously nobody wants to be falsely accused of something, but it's like in that moment when you want to be like, are you kidding me? I didn't do that. You're lying. Can you sit there and stop yourself and say, God will give them their justice. He will give them their justice. And I'll tell you what, that was my pride. That was my downfall, because if somebody said a rumor about me or said something that I did not do and I wasn't even there for, to be fair,
it's the worst.
It bothered me to my core, because I thought, how could someone blatantly lie? But then I realized, after I had been convicted and I started following the Holy Spirit, I then asked God, how do I get this off of my heart? How do I tear this feeling off of my heart? And all he said to me was, you're not trusting me to fight your battles. You want to fight them. And so I was so I sat there and I was like, okay, I'll let you fight it. And it has never failed that when somebody goes against me or is doing something in spite of and doing something to hurt me maliciously, and I allow God to move in their life and to do what he has to do, I promise when I say this, y'all, it has never failed. They are brought to justice. It comes to the light, and I always get an apology.
And you may not see it.
No. And even if you don't ever get an apology, you have to be okay with people saying something wrong about you, even though it's not true, because the fact that they have so much time on their hands to speak ill of you and to have you on their mind, that means some inner demon of theirs was irritated by one of your angels. And you just have to keep praying. Keep praying. Don't fall short into those. Like, we get it. When people get angry, you want to react. You want to get them. But God was literally hated, talked poorly about, thrown stones at. He was literally hated, and he had done nothing wrong. And yet he still died for us. So whenever somebody has a problem with you, it's usually because they have a problem within themselves. And all you can do is say, I really hope God delivers them from that. I really do.
And one way is, like Lacey's, I think, said before, is knowing your own triggers. Those are unique to each person. Like, I'm very much the type of person where if you have an issue with me, address it to me.
Yeah, don't go talk to other people.
When I find out it's been going on behind my back, I don't like that.
Well, they're afraid to tell you because they know they're wrong.
Well, and this sounds extreme, but I would rather take it to the parking lot and duke it out than talk crap about people behind their back. I just feel like, come on. If you've got an issue, address the source.
Well, and there are times, like even with Holly, she obviously knows everything about me in my past. She knows who's hurt me. She knows what I've had to deal with behind closed doors. And there are moments where I get triggered, and I know this, and I call her and I'm like, hey, I'm upset. Here's why. But I know that this person did absolutely nothing wrong, but it triggered me because of this one word, or it triggered me because this is how it made me feel. And she will say, is it because they maliciously meant to do this? Or is it because that person in your past created that trauma and you're still healing from it? And I have to realize that even though it still stings and it does hurt to overcome somebody and something that hurt you, that new person in your life, the new people in your life are not that person, and they did not hurt you. So if you do not heal the wounds that cut you, you will bleed on other people who never hurt you.
Well, and that advice, that's one of those, ask me how I know. You want to talk betrayal? The only reason I learned how to do that is because my two past relationships before my husband, both long-term, one was 5 years, one was over 2 years, 2 or 3, something like that.
Almost 3 before the war.
Both serious relationships. The first one, even engaged for a year, about to get married, both ended in cheating, unfaithful incidents. So true betrayal, like just true breaking of trust. And so because that happened back to back, and then I meet my husband, it took a while for me to trust anybody. Like, it took a while for me to realize he's not them.
Yeah.
Like, he did not do that to you. At the same time, ladies or men, whoever you're with, like, even if you have a past like mine where you've experienced betrayal on pretty extreme levels, you can't always make it the other person's responsibility to earn your trust.
Yeah.
Like, they're going to do all that they can, but you have to be working on it on your end. Like, I had to break down my own walls because Zach could do everything within his power to show me that he's trustworthy, but I still had to actually trust him.
It's internal.
I can't make him prove himself for the rest of his life. That's not fair.
That's why I say to people, if you are not willing to put in the work to heal your internal trauma, you will bleed on people that didn't cut you.
Yep.
And I say this because I have been single for 4 years, but I tried to date. At some points, I tried to date even when I was still healing. And I realized a lot of the issue was I could not get over that. It wasn't even these guys that hurt me. It was my past, but I kept holding them responsible. Mm-hmm. And so finally,
and that's what I was doing to Zach, and that wasn't fair. He hadn't done anything.
And so to anybody going through that, anybody, whether you are male or female, and you have been hurt every which way, because women are just as bad. If you have been hurt, there is times when God forces us to isolate ourselves, and he forces us to dig deeper within ourselves in order to heal and to repair and come back stronger. And if you are not willing to look at yourself and say, you are the problem, let's fix this. Some people do not take accountability, and they wonder why they keep getting stuck on this same loop, this same cycle, and same toxic pattern. It's because they're not willing to do the work. They're not willing to put in the work to become a better person. And again, going back to why it's important who you surround yourself with. If you surround yourself with people that all they do is lie, cheat, steal, get drunk, do all these things with horrible people, that's kind of what you're only used to. That's all you see. And so if you're around people, good, godly people, or people that, whether you're spiritual or not, and you have people that guide you to a better way of thinking, a better way of emotionally processing, those are the people that are going to pull out some really tough parts of you, and it's going to feel like they're attacking you when really they're just trying to cleanse you. They're just trying to get this out of you, but you have to be willing to accept that you've done some things wrong. You need to accept who's really here for you. Pick the people wisely, but surrounding yourself is who you become. And I can't even remember what verse that is biblically, but it says you are who you surround yourself with.
Yeah, I've got it written somewhere.
It's somewhere biblically. I don't have my Bible with me.
I've got a few, like 1 Corinthians 15:33, bad company corrupts good character.
Yeah.
Or Proverbs 13:20, whoever walks with the wise becomes wise, but the companion of fools suffers harm. Things like that. Like the Bible is littered with verses on friendship. Is. Like it's so vital and integral to who we are.
Even if you want to get as corny as literally put a rotting fruit in a bowl of healthy fruit, that entire bowl will rot because it's the healthy, like one toxic, one thing. And it's hard because some people say, well, why can't the healthy people just get rid of that one toxic person? Sometimes toxic people are the most manipulative, most convincing. Like there are just things where people say, I have been abused, I have been this. There have been many people that have been through things that I couldn't even imagine. But it just takes separation, isolation, and choosing your people wisely. Because again, the moment I read that about Jesus and his 12 disciples and how each of them had a purpose, and he picked them for a certain reason, I wanted to know more. I was like, why did he do this? I thought God didn't really play favorites. I thought Jesus didn't really play favorites.
Kinda does.
Well, he kind of does now after seeing Chris Hemsworth. That's unfair to every man that's ever walked on this planet. Talk about unfair. All of you guys, good freaking luck.
Yeah, how's it feel being one of God's favorites, Chris Hemsworth?
How does it feel being on this planet while Chris Hemsworth breathes the same air you? It's like, sorry, Chris, I didn't mean to breathe the same air you did. My bad.
You know, it's so funny. Zach and I ask each other stupid questions all the time. He's like, so what celebrity do you think is attractive?
Chris Hemsworth.
And I was like,
100%.
Chris Hemsworth. And Zach said, Thor? How's one supposed to compete with a god?
But see, it's fair. It's fair because even men can acknowledge a beautiful creation.
Oh, of course.
Like, okay, this one is for the ladies, but Riley Green, obviously.
He's the hot
Even
ticket
some
right
of the
now.
guys go in the gym trying to build a figure like him. Like
it's the whole mustache thing.
Yeah, but it's the burliness. It's the protectiveness. It's the sexiness. He's not a weasel. Like I could picture him in an Avengers costume and be like, yeah, we could protect the world together. But it's like, if I have to train you to go to war, we ain't it. And so it's same thing. Going off topic here, a little ADHD. I don't know if he plays favorites. I truly think he did with Chris Hemsworth specifically. But I
think he does though, because the Bible said that he shows favor upon certain people. And
he does, but does he show favor to those that follow him?
Oh yeah,
and to those that abide by his rule.
For sure.
Even in Judas's betrayal. Even if you follow Christ and you do the wrong thing and maybe you've strayed from him or maybe you did something you shouldn't have done, there's always still God. Judas didn't do this. Obviously, he hung himself. But he could have turned it around. He could have repented. He could have asked Christ to forgive him. Again, I don't know if he did or not. I don't know if that was changed in a different part. I'm not in that book. But I think Judas was still there because God knew, even though he had to fulfill a prophecy, he also was there to teach us believers about what happens when you fall into sin, when you fall into temptation, and when you question God's purpose for you, when you question what he's doing for his people. And we've all fallen short, every single one of us.
And bottom line is, y'all, betrayal hurts.
It sucks.
I know better than anyone how much that hurts. Like I just said, like I was literally about to marry someone that betrayed me in the worst way. Like, I mean, I have felt it to my core. But if you're ever struggling with feelings of betrayal, just think about Jesus. If there's anybody that understands what betrayal is like, it's him. And you can talk to him about it. It sent him to
his death.
Yeah, it literally killed him. So if there's anybody that understands, if you don't have a friend here on earth to talk to, you have God to talk to. And he is the one person who understands. Like, he understands better than any of us.
Be willing to accept correction where it's needed. Be willing to bite your tongue where God is trying to do all the work for you. And just be willing to accept isolation, especially when you're in a growing period. Because some of my greatest friends and some of the most beautiful friends I could ever ask for, they didn't stray when I needed to isolate, but also when I came out of isolation, they respected boundaries. They respected when I needed to quit people pleasing and when I needed to allow God to work in my life. And still to this day, those women have my back. And obviously Holly's one of them, but she's like, I'm talking non-blood related. I'm talking like the girls, you know, but there's literally, let's see, I'm thinking 1, 2, 3.
I can probably name
4. Yeah, there's 4 of them.
Yeah,
there's 4.
And because one of them be there on your wedding day.
They will. And I told them, I said, hey, good luck, ladies. I said, you're gonna get a box or something in the mail that says, congrats, you're a bridesmaid. I'm not asking them. And they said, I wouldn't expect anything less. Yeah, they were like, we literally, why would you even ask? Of course we're gonna be in your wedding. One of them gets married next year in Alaska, so I'll be there for that. Like it's.
And you want to talk about a friend that'll tell it to you straight. She's one of them. She is the best.
She will literally, she looked at me in 9th grade, because I've known her since I was in 5th grade, and she knows who she is talking about it right now. She literally looked at me, because I used to do my eyebrows like a really weird color when I was trying to figure out makeup, y'all. I had a weird growing phase. And she looked at me, and she was the makeup beauty queen. She's gorgeous.
Good at it, yeah.
And she looked at me one day at lunch and went, what'd you do to your eyebrows? And I said, nothing. I was trying out a new color. Does it look bad? She goes, come with me to the bathroom. And so we walked in the bathroom, and she immediately grabbed like a wet rag and wet paper towel. And she was like, yeah, we're not this. She literally just grabbed my face. She goes, you're gonna have to trust me. We're fixing this. And she brought her little she brought her makeup kit. She fixed my eyebrows. She is the one that taught me how to correctly do makeup. She taught me how to correctly do it, because I didn't know how. I didn't know what makeup brushes to use. I didn't know any of that. And she watched the tutorials.
See, that is a true friend, because she didn't just cut you down, make you feel bad and walk away. She said, hey, you got a little problem there. Let me help you with it. Like, she stepped up and took you and helped you. Like, that's a friend. Do they criticize you and then help you, or do they just cut you down, make you feel like crap and run?
Well, and that other one that you know about, the one that always goes, oh, Lacey, she goes, are we having a pity party now? Yeah. Like, she will literally just ask me straight up, are we having a pity party, or do you want me to actually tell you what I think?
Are you venting, or are we?
And when I tell her, she goes, I think you'll be okay, but I really think you need to try this option. And that's the option I did not want. And then I'm like, but she's right. Yeah. So she'll ask me, do you want a pity party, or do you want a real answer? And so, I mean, bless her heart, like, none of these girls live here, which sucks. No. It sucks. But these women I can call in a heartbeat.
And it can be something super simple, like the color of your eyebrow makeup, or like, you better believe Lacey was there when I picked out my wedding dress, because Lacey will be the first person to say, that looks like shit, take it off.
I didn't say anything until I was spoken to. And
yeah, she had some weird restraint that day, and I looked at her and I was like, would you say something? That's the only reason you're here, so you can tell me if this looks like crap on me.
Because I was waiting to see if, like, you wanted my opinion, and I was like, none of those.
Yeah, she knew a wedding dress was a really important thing, and she didn't want to make me feel bad if I really loved something. But I was like, okay, I'm not going to be able to walk out of here with a dress if you don't okay it, because I need to know, like, it doesn't look good.
I forgot, but like in my maid of honor letter you wrote me, I forgot that I had picked all 3 of your wedding dresses. But it was only because
That's a whole story.
no, because the first one,
I've not been married 3 times.
no. When she was first engaged by the man who betrayed her, we went and got a wedding dress very early on. But it was the one dress she refused to wear. She was like, I will never wear that. And of course she chooses it. But then years later, she obviously grew and she developed more muscle and she became a bodybuilder. So the dress no longer fit. So we had to get you a new one. Well, the second dress was gorgeous. It was lace. It was beautiful. But the lady, it just didn't seem, it was too tight. She couldn't sit in it. It was very uncomfortable. And the third dress was like, it was sitting on the rack. I could see it. And I was like, I'm just going to let her do her thing. I'm not going to bring it to her.
She'd been sitting there like a statue. I was like, what is wrong with you?
And so the lady, the consultant asked me, do you have one in mind? And I just went, and I sat up, I was like, this one right here. And she goes, okay. And she pulls it out. And Holly came out in it. My mother bawled.
I initially said, I'm not putting that thing on.
No, but I knew that what she originally refused to put on is what would look really good on her. So I was like, I'm just going to let her try on the things that she is dead set on. And then each one was like, oh, I don't like this, or I don't like this, the way it drapes. So long story short, ladies, if you have siblings, or guys, if you have sisters or siblings, trust your siblings. Sometimes they know what you need to wear. Sometimes they don't. But again, surround yourself with people that will tell you the truth. Tell you how it is.
For a fact, this dress was not, sometimes you see on those bridal dress shows that people will pick one that they would want. I knew for a fact this was not the case because Lacey would never wear this dress. Like it was not her.
I have a weird taste in a wedding dress, and nobody will know what it is till the day of the wedding.
But from picking out clothes to, your relationships to whatever it is, you need good people in your life because there's no person alive that's never experienced betrayal. Yeah. And if you're going through some fresh betrayal right now, I'm so sorry. Like it
sucks.
It hurts and it's going to hurt for a little while. Just know that, like, we're not going to sugarcoat it, but
just think about how Christ handled it, or what might help is if you have been and you're trying to find good people, you're trying to surround yourself with good people, whether that is male or female. Ask yourself, how would Christ want you to go about this? Would he want you to go find them at the clubs, or would he want you to go and maybe find a group, or maybe find people at a run club, or something that you are like-minded? I'm not saying that everybody who is Christian is good. I'm not saying that, because there have been some people that only use it as a face. But I have met some of my girls. I have met them, actually some of them, when I was at my darkest, and those women stood by me and they never left. They never judged me. So it's like, think about if you were to completely fall, if you were completely isolate, who would still be there? Who would still check on you?
Yeah, that's huge.
And if it's none of your friends, you might need to do some reevaluating. Yeah,
and like Lacey said before, the key to gaining those friendships is being that friend. Mm-hmm. Being that person that,
you have to be willing to be the friend that is okay with someone being upset at you if you tell them the honest truth and you try to help them and you're not hurting them, but you have to be willing to internally be secure with the love that you have for this person, and because you love them, you're not going to lie to them.
Yeah.
You have to be okay with that.
Your friendships can literally alter your whole life. Like, what if Lacey had been the friend that just told me what I wanted to hear back when I was struggling to trust my husband, my now husband, boyfriend at the time? Like, what if she had just told me what I wanted to hear, be like, oh yeah, girl, he's acting sketchy, you need to call his butt out, like this and that. I would have sabotaged the guy I'm now married to. Like, I'd have ruined that relationship. So who you surround yourself with is huge. Like, it's absolutely huge.
Yeah.
And we've been there. We get it, y'all. We hope this was helpful. And like we said, if you have no friends here on earth to talk to, then
come hang out at our podcast.
Yeah, talk to us or talk to God. He's the number one person that understands betrayal. It led to his death, unfortunately.
Be willing to accept correction and pray about it. Mm-hmm. He will give you the answer you need.
Yeah.
Maybe not right away, but it'll happen.
And you'll feel better eventually.
Yeah, it takes time.
You will.
But we won't beat a dead horse We appreciate you guys always listening. And again, if you have any questions or if you just have comments for us, again, y'all, we read stuff. We look into it, especially with all of our socials. We try to keep up with you guys. And we appreciate the feedback for those that have done it. So
yeah,
thank you.
I love getting comments from total strangers too, just people that are tuning in. And, we've even had someone was an ordained pastor and corrected me on some verse that I got wrong. And I was like, oh, thanks, man. Thanks for correcting me on that.
We're all learning.
Yeah, we're all learning here. We're on the same road. So I guess that's it for now. And we will see y'all in the next episode.
Yeah.
Yep. Bye.